door that must shut. You will do things that your heart would have recoiled from. I dispute that I'm to become what I'm not. Time will tell.
She was sitting by a weirwood tree, writing about butterflies. Around her, caterpillars moved through the grass, not yet in their cocoons, not yet ready to transform. And Helaena looked at them and wrote something in her journal that on the surface sounds like the innocent observation of a woman who loves insects a little too much. It was not innocent, it was a warning, and nobody in the Red Keep understood it until it was already too late. House of the Dragon has given us a lot of characters who think they understand power. Rhaenyra thinks she understands it. Daemon thinks he's mastered it. Otto Hightower built his entire life around controlling it. But the one person in this show who actually sees where all of it is going, the one person who could tell you exactly how the story ends, if anyone would just sit down and listen to her, is the woman drawing bugs on her bedroom walls and writing about butterflies in a garden. Helaena Targaryen knows something. She has always known something, and the latest episode just revealed exactly how deep that knowledge goes, including what it means for Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne, why the execution of Otto Hightower might be one of the most catastrophic political mistakes this war has produced, and what Helaena has already seen about her own fate that she has apparently decided to simply accept. Let's go through all of it, because this episode was packed with detail that is easy to miss and impossible to overstate once you understand what it's actually saying. The scene in the Godswood is constructed very carefully, and the careful construction is part of the point. Helaena is sitting near the same red flowers that Larry Strong once pointed out to Alicent before the Great Time Jump. That's not an accident. Those flowers are a visual callback placed deliberately to connect past and present, to remind you that this garden has always been a place where things are observed and understood by people paying attention while everyone else looks elsewhere. Helaena fits perfectly in that lineage. When Alicent finds her, Helaena doesn't react with surprise or relief or any of the emotions you'd expect from someone whose world is collapsing. She calmly reveals that she already knows about the secret meetings between Alicent and Rhaenyra. She's seen them. She has watched them happen inside her visions before they happened in reality. And then she mentions, almost as an aside, that she's already seen Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne. That detail lands differently depending on whether you remember that we've seen that image before. Daemon's haunting visions earlier in the season contained that same image, Rhaenyra on the throne. It's a fixed point, a moment the future apparently insists on. The problem is not whether it happens, the problem is when. This is the core limitation that makes Helena's gift both extraordinary and heartbreaking. She perceives the past, present, and future simultaneously, but she cannot anchor any of it to a specific moment in time. To her, these events exist in a kind of permanent present tense, destined to happen, but undated, floating in a timeline she can see but cannot sequence. So when Rhaenyra comes to King's Landing, Helaena isn't alarmed by the fact of it. She's already seen it. What alarms her, what she communicates through the language of insects, because it's the only language she seems to fully trust, is the timing. The caterpillars around her have not yet formed their cocoons. They are not ready. And Helaena notes in her journal that it is simply not the right season for them to become butterflies. She is not writing a nature observation. She is writing a verdict on the state of the realm. Rhaenyra was always going to take the Iron Throne, but not yet. Not like this. This is out of season. And things forced into blame before their time do not survive the way they should. To understand why the timing matters so much, you have to understand what changed, what accelerated everything. Jace died, and that grief, combined with Daemon's relentless push forward, combined with the secret communications with Alicent, compressed a timeline that was supposed to unfold at a different pace into something sudden and sharp and jagged. Rhaenyra wasn't supposed to take King's Landing under these circumstances. The version of that event Helaena saw in whatever original vision she holds, the one that lived inside Daemon's dream, was different, more stable, more legitimate. By forcing the throne out of season, the characters have stepped off the path of that original vision and into something far more dangerous and unpredictable. Then comes Otto Hightower's execution. And this is where the chaos of operating outside the intended timeline becomes immediately, visibly catastrophic. When Rhaenyra and Daemon force their way into the capital and find Otto in the dungeons, their logic is straightforward. He is Aegon's Hand of the King. Executing the hand publicly signals dominance and decisiveness. It tells the port, the lords, everyone watching, that the Black Queen has not just arrived, she has already won. It is meant to be a statement of power so clean and complete that no one can question what just happened. The problem is that they are working from outdated information, and nobody in their circle knows it. Aegon had already dismissed Otto. He was already gone as Hand before any of this. Criston Cole replaced him. Otto didn't fall to Rhaenyra's forces. He fell to his own side's internal politics, ended up in the Black Cells for reasons Daemon and Rhaenyra never bothered to investigate, and was sitting in a dungeon that should have been empty. Alicent didn't tell them any of this during her secret communications. Maybe she didn't think it was relevant. Maybe she was protecting something. Either way, the Black faction walks into King's Landing functionally blind to the internal mechanics of the court they're supposedly taking over. And the result is that they execute a man who no longer held the position they executed him for, in front of witnesses who now watch the new queen make a decisive public mistake and call it strength. And then there's Alicent, who believed her father had left for his estates, who had no idea he was in the Black Cells at all, who now watches Rhaenyra, the woman she secretly helped, the woman she trusted enough to deploy the gold cloaks against Aegon's own guards, have her father's head taken publicly in the throne room. It looks like a betrayal. It looks like Rhaenyra tracked Otto down, hauls him back to King's Landing specifically, and executed him as a message to her. The alliance that was barely minutes old shatters. The relationship that had been rebuilt across secret meetings and genuine brief and something almost like hope collapses instantly and completely. And Rhaenyra doesn't even understand why. That is the specific, brutal cost of operating out of season. Every decision gets made on incomplete information. Every action produces consequences nobody predicted. And the tragedy is that Helaena saw the shape of all of this from a weirwood tree in the Godswood, writing about caterpillars that weren't ready yet. Now let's slow down and talk about what Helaena actually wrote in her journal, because this is the detail that the episode zooms in on deliberately, and it deserves full attention. The camera holds on the specific text in her notebook, and for anyone familiar with the wider lore of this universe, what she's written is immediately recognizable and immediately devastating. She writes about the butterflies of Nath, the island of Nath, which longtime fans will know as Missandei's homeland in Game of Thrones, is protected by butterflies that are lethal to outsiders. They cause death to people around them, these creatures, while they themselves remain alive. Poisonous, beautiful, dangerous to everyone except those native to the place they come from. Helaena writes about them, and then she writes the line that changes everything. So far, I remain alive. So far, that qualifier is doing enormous work. Helaena is not writing about these butterflies as a curiosity or a zoological interest. She is writing about them as a mirror. She has seen something in her dragon dreams, something about herself, something about what's coming, and she has chosen to encode it in insect metaphor the way she always does. The poisonous butterfly that lives while those around it die. She is not certain yet when it changes, but she knows it changes. She knows because she's seen it. And the fact that she writes, "So far I remain alive," suggests she has witnessed a version of herself that isn't. This is Helaena quietly processing the knowledge of her own death in the only language that feels safe enough to put on paper. And if you know her character, if you know her gentle wish from earlier episodes that she could just raise chickens in peace, that all she wanted was a quiet life with her mother and her insects and her children, that context makes the journal entry one of the most quietly devastating moments the show has produced. She does not rage against what she's seen. She simply notes it. So far. Her bedroom tells the same story if you know how to read it. She has covered every surface with drawings, paintings, and specimens. Bugs everywhere, yes, but hidden among them are chalk writings that contain much larger prophecies. Long-range visions that include references to events far beyond this war, far beyond this generation, pointing toward things that won't happen for decades or longer. Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, The people walking through her chambers see eccentric decoration. What they're actually walking through is a literal map of the future, annotated and cataloged by the one person in the entire dynasty who can see it. The question the show keeps raising is whether anyone in this story actually understands what Helaena is, because most of them don't. They smile at her, they gently redirect her, they treat her visions as symptoms rather than information. But the history of the Targaryen dynasty offers two exceptions, two people who have ever shown any real capacity to grasp what she experiences. The first is Viserys. He was a scholar of history and prophecy and Targaryen lore in a way that was almost obsessive. Standing beside Helaena at funerals when she was young, watching the signs of the sight emerge in his daughter, he recognized it. He may not have been able to interpret specific visions, but he understood that she was seeing something real. The second, more fascinating, is Daemon. He is the only person currently alive who has interacted with Helaena inside the mystical plane of a vision, and unlike everyone else, who watches her and sees a strange, disconnected woman writing about insects, Daemon understands on some level that she connects to a force much larger than any single person's ambition or plan, which raises a genuinely interesting theoretical question about the nature of her ability itself. Standard dragon dreams in Targaryen lore are confined to the dreamer's own subconscious, personal visions, personal futures, personal symbols. But Helena's documented capacity to project herself into other people's visions, to appear inside Daemon's dream and interact with it, suggests something that goes beyond standard Targaryen foresight. It overlaps with the abilities of green seers, the same kind of extended psychic reach that allowed the three-eyed raven to move through the Weirwood network across space and time. Helaena may not just be a dragon dreamer. She may be something older and rarer than that. A Targaryen who accidentally developed an ability the bloodline wasn't supposed to carry anymore. And all of this circles back to the theme that George R.R. Martin has been building into this universe since the very beginning: the trap of prophecy. The specific recurring danger of human pride encountering foreknowledge and deciding it understands more than it does. Rhaenyra started this war on the edge of surrender. She was exhausted and grieving and genuinely considering whether any of this was worth the cost. And then prophecy reinvigorated her. The dagger, Daemon's interpretations of the Weirwood visions, the sense that she was not just a political claimant, but a destined figure, the prince that was promised wearing a queen's face, standing at the center of a story that had been written before she was born. That belief transformed her from someone cautious into someone intoxicated. And intoxicated people make decisions, like executing the wrong person in a throne room because they were too certain of their own version of the truth to check whether it was accurate. Daemon is equally guilty. He has never been a voice of restraint in Rhaenyra's ear. He is the instigator, the accelerant, the one who keeps pushing toward harder measures and faster timelines, and his willingness to use the Weirwood visions as justification for immediate political ruthlessness, rather than as a warning about how fragile the path is exactly the kind of lore-driven arrogance that Martin has been warning against since A Game of Thrones. The oldest rule in Westeros is simple: those who refuse to listen to the visionaries are doomed to be consumed by the fire. Helaena is sitting in the Godswood, writing about caterpillars that aren't ready yet and butterflies that cause death to those around them. She is telling anyone who will read it exactly what is coming, what is already in motion, what cannot be stopped, now that events have been forced out of season. Nobody is reading it, or if they are not understanding it. And that gap between what Helaena knows and what everyone else is willing to hear is where the tragedy of House of the Dragon lives. What do you think? Is Helena's ability something beyond standard dragon dreams? Is she actually tapping into something closer to green seer powers? And do you think Rhaenyra can recover from the political damage of Otto's execution? Or did that single moment fracture the foundation of her reign beyond repair? Drop your theories in the comments, because this show is moving fast, and I want to know what you're seeing that I might be missing.